So over the last 4 years, we have adjusted our mix. The cropping area has decreased by about 5%, so we're now 70% cropping and 30% livestock. We've actually introduced lucerne into the rotation. We have brought sheep back into the system. We started analysing it and thinking that we couldn't afford to leave that much money sitting on the table by running beef cattle when we could probably be making more money out of prime lambs.
So the decision making over sort of changing the enterprise and major business decisions is something that we've always done together. Murray, he's the main driver, I guess, of the farming operation because he's the one with the major expertise. But he's always really valued, and I guess for him, he likes to chew over decisions. We both like to have as much information as we can before we make a decision. And so that idea of sort of bouncing ideas off each other, challenging each other, getting ideas out of our head and having to actually speak them together helps us, I think, to make better decisions.
Once we started digging into it, we explored further and found that there was opportunities in the cropping side that we could make use of with the sheep. Another reason that we've sort of looked at going back into sheep was lowering our risk. So after the decade of dry years and then floods and then frost, while cropping is very profitable, it's also higher risk, and we sort of felt that we wanted to lower our risk levels a little bit. What's actually happened is that the sheep have taken some country from the beef operation. We've lowered our cattle numbers, and they've taken some country from the cropping side, and we've put lucerne back in as a way of, again, dealing with ryegrass issues, building the soil fertility, so therefore lowering our risk and making the system just probably a little bit more sustainable. And those grazing crops give us the ability to let things like lucerne or the wheat that we're going to fallow the opportunity to grow and fill the feed gap that we get in early winter. Bringing sheep in has certainly added a layer of complexity. We're still learning what the best way to do things are. Before we went into the sheep, we did a work budget, so we sat down and put every enterprise in and each week of the year, and we tried to estimate what we'd be doing. So then when we brought the sheep in, we were able to manipulate our timing so that we weren't overlapping too much in high workload areas. Traditionally, we've tried to do everything ourselves, and we've had to change, and we've had to bring in contract people to do stuff for us, and that's probably going to increase a little bit, especially on the sheep side. When you start looking at it, the cost isn't that high often, and the efficiency gain in just time, it can be massive. When we started contemplating bringing sheep back into the system, the first question we asked ourselves was, what was it that made us not like them last time we had them? And it was because they were hard work. And what made them hard work was because our sheep yards were very ordinary, and so to do anything was hard work. And we made the decision that if we were going to go into sheep, we would do it properly. And so we invested in new sheep yards, we've invested in a sheep handler. I was willing to spend capital to make the job as easy as possible, and it has made a massive difference. The quality of life and the time efficiency, to me, is incredibly important and valuable. When we went into sheep, we realised pretty quickly that there was a lot that we needed to learn. So an important thing that we've found very useful has been doing a lifetime ewe management course. It's been extremely helpful for us to understand how the sheep system works, the need for that body score and keeping the livestock in good condition and at the right time of year. So the decade up until the last time we filmed this was a pretty challenging period in agriculture, I think, especially in this part of the world. We had an incredibly long drought that no one had experienced that was a live sort of thing before, so it certainly affected a lot of businesses' profitability, including our own. We were geared for a risk factor of maybe having 2 bad years in a row, but not almost a decade of bad years. So on the whole, I think we've become a lot smarter in our farming. Things like summer spraying to keep the weeds out. Even though we've got lots of livestock running around, that summer feed is better utilised as stored moisture, and that has certainly added to our profitability on the cropping side. And bringing the sheep in certainly also improved our profitability. I think we're set up a lot better to handle the tough years. We're adapting a lot more quickly than we did 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And we've certainly done it. The last 3 years haven't been great springs. And yet we've been able to have years that are very profitable, even though the conditions are quite trying. The system has to be sustainable, that you can take advantage of the good years, but not run up the risk so high if it all turns pear-shaped weather-wise or market-wise. Trying to work out where the enterprise balance is, that's the big challenge for at the moment. We're putting a lot of effort into understanding the profitability of each of the enterprises. We've actually got a business consultant now, and just because we've got a lot of knowledge and investment in cropping doesn't mean that maintaining that 70% area of cropping is the right decision. And I think that's probably the big advantage of mixed farming systems, is that you do have that ability to alter that mix sometimes quite quickly as the markets dictate where your profitability drivers are. I think understanding what your profitability drivers are is the main lesson we've learned over the last 5 years, and what your profitability limiters are as well. So understanding what's stopping you from making more money is just as important as understanding where that money comes from.